Hey, good afternoon. Here with Jayda Russell. You've been here all afternoon tracking things, and we had Jeff and Eric this morning. One thing that we're starting to watch, as you see behind us on the radar, this is a fairly heavy area of drizzle. It's also accompanied by some really low clouds and some fog.
Right.
The fog, I think, is going to be temporary, but again, the Weather Service wants us to make sure we mention, be aware that the dangers here. If we get freezing fog, and again, I think the winds are going to pick up enough, so this freezing fog may be an initial concern, and then may get some of that, almost what we call rime ice on trees. So if you've ever been out like the Colorado mountains, California mountains, you go skiing, you notice they've got these little spikes, and it looks real frosty on the tree limbs.
Yeah.
You may see some of that develop tonight. You won't see it tonight, but tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing right now is going to be the roads. And one thing that, we were forecasting the rain to move out of here, and there was a bit of a wintry mix showing up in the guidance, but this drizzle has been really thick.
Yeah.
So the roads are not drying so far. So I still think we got a window of an hour, maybe 2 hours for the roads to dry. And I made a post on Facebook. I did more research here because we always get these questions about what's going on with the roads. But the power grid is what's the problem, especially in the northwest corner of the state. You get west of Florence, and this is what it looks like. This was our main concern all along, right, Jayda?
Absolutely.
We were talking about prepare for power outages, and that's exactly what they are dealing with over there. And as you get close to the Mississippi state line, it's even worse. Out towards Waterloo, again, these areas are going without power. The cold weather's coming in. They're going to need help. So, again, hopefully we'll be able to figure out what everyone's going to need, how long that power is going to be out, and to see maybe there's a Facebook page that can be created to see how they need help or whatnot. Of course, this is the weekend. Of course, the offices over there, utilities have been hard at work out there. But, again, we still don't know the whole scope and scale of who's been impacted, how many people. It's a fairly rural area over there.
Absolutely.
But Nashville, speaking of power outages, they've been kind of in and out of power outages in Nashville and other places.
We did get some. I think we did get an update through our. Yeah, I think there's a map for the state of Tennessee, and I think what Nashville's looking at is about 200,000 people without power.
My son's up there. He said it was flickering earlier in the day, and he said it's out now. So, again, power outages. And the winds will pick up and help dry some of these roads. So we're going to kind of shift from the ice. The ice storm warning was let go early because it's over with. But the lasting impacts are still there.
Right.
The power outages. And again, tonight it's going to get very, very cold. And if you're in one of those areas, you're using a generator, you want to make sure that generator is away from your home. And it's in no position to where the exhaust is going to get into your home, because most of these are either propane or they're all natural gas, but usually you're not going to have a portable natural gas generator.
Yeah.
It's going to be gasoline. So you want to keep those. A lot of people try to say, well, I want to keep it in the garage because I don't want it to get wet. Yeah. It's not going to get wet once we fall below freezing because the moisture has moved out. So again, be very careful. Space heaters as well.
Yes.
Those are very dangerous. You want to make sure they're at least 3 feet away from the wall. Kerosene. Make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector if you're going to be using kerosene, because kerosene's typically used like in a garage because it still gives off some of that carbon monoxide. So I don't know if it's how to vent. Again, read the instructions. Many of you went out and you bought new kerosene heaters, because we did stories on it. We did several stories on people stocking up on propane. Those are the things you need to make sure you're being safe, because you've survived the storm. There are issues with problems post-storm.
Right.
The number one issue, you get heart attacks, people out there overexerting themselves in the cold air. You slip and fall just letting your dog outside. We've had several situations, your back deck just freezes up.
Yeah.
There's going to be those areas on the roads that freeze up. And believe it or not, I saw this just last week. Some of these subdivisions, they still have their irrigation systems on. So the irrigation system will come on, and surprisingly, you run into an area that's a sheet of ice across the road.
Right.
So if you're in charge of an HOA in your area, make sure your irrigation is. It should be off already.
Right.
Because that's what happens when we winterize and we go in. Typically, there's no need to turn the irrigation on because all your grass is dormant. In most cases.
Very true.
And most people have Bermuda grass around here. So those are situations there.
And I think another thing with the Huntsville city leaders getting together and kind of giving us some statistics earlier, another concern, because we are starting to see some of these roadways did kind of have some pooling earlier today with
Yes.
some of those rain chances. We're still waiting for a lot of that to dry out. But just yesterday morning, I know some folks were like, oh, things may be fine over here. But when we say this is not a forecast that's one size fit all, I believe our police chief said about 70 accidents, or they had to respond for 70 different calls.
Yeah, they've already closed. They're closing the parkway down right now. So
Yes.
we're kind of going reverse of what we had yesterday morning, and that was the roads were frozen. Anything that fell on them was going to stick, and we were
Right.
pretty aware of that was going to be the case. It ended up tracking about 15 miles south, and 10 o'clock news at Friday, we made that mention. We said this is drifting to the south, so be prepared for hazardous road conditions by at least 10 o'clock. Lo and behold, they developed right around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. And that's been one of the larger concerns that I've been trying to punch home as well. So folks are well aware of why schools are canceled, why different things are kind of being blocked off, different areas. And of course, we're only able to cover a handful of space, but a lot of areas that we aren't able to get out to, for example, the shoals, some folks have been kind of sending us their information. So if you know of a street that's kind of compromised in your
let
area,
us know.
that's the kind of thing we
You
want to
guys
see.
have a better, outside of just being contacted by local EMA and emergency staff, we are unaware of what your roads look like.
Right.
Everything is a little different. And again, going back to my post on Facebook, the roads, they're going to improve differently and they're going to go downhill differently. So again, you got asphalt, which is typically darker in color. It's a black body radiation, we call it. So when the sun hits that in the morning, it's going to melt very quickly and then it's going to dry. Concrete, on the other hand, takes a little bit longer for ice to accumulate on it. Plus, you've got warmer air still in the ground underneath these roads. So that's why we say bridges and overpasses, even when you cross over a culvert, if you know there's a culvert on your way home or wherever you're going, it may seem very minuscule, but you get a patch of that ice that's only 3 feet wide, and you're going to spin out and you're going to get off the road.
Yeah.
And the other danger tonight, as you mentioned, all the rain we've had, some of these creeks, if you slip and you fly off the road, you may end up in water where there's normally not water.
Right. We did see some pooling coming in on Memorial. We did see some of that even on some of those shoulders. So another concern that I kind of expressed, if there's for any reason you find yourself on the road and if anything should happen to someone's car, some of these shoulders may also be compromised with ice. So watch where you kind of stop your car if you absolutely have to. These are things that you may not think about on the regular given day, but are conditions at the moment.
Now,
are a
let's
little
go
different.
ahead and get in here and talk about the radar, and then we'll talk about road temperatures. And
Yeah.
we can kind of talk a little bit more about it. So we still have this area in blue. I think a lot of this is that drizzle and light rain. We can go ahead and take this full screen so you can kind of get a better view at home. And then the heaviest drizzle, the front itself is moving into Scottsboro now. And the temperatures are going to fall. We'll fall below freezing about 2 hours behind the cold front as it moves through. And behind it, you're immediately going to get this area drizzle. You might even get a few snow flurries out of this. It stays cloudy tonight. That really doesn't impact us until we get to tomorrow when we do expect sunshine, and that'll help dry those roads. But still kind of a wintry mix. I would plan on being home, especially if you're live from Huntsville down to Coleman to the west by sunset, because once the sun sets, believe it or not, there's still a little bit of radiation that gets through the clouds and gets on those roads, that asphalt, and helps keep them from freezing. But that goes away once the sun sets. And I think we'll be around freezing in most areas from Newmarket down in towards Eva, Somerville, Valormosa Springs, Coleman, and Arab by 6 o'clock this evening. So as far as road temperatures go, right now we're below freezing already in Athens, Moulton, Haleyville. So this is where I would say in an hour these roads are going to become hazardous. They probably already are in the far northwest corner of the state, especially where we've had the ice accumulation.
Right.
So again, in Leoma, Pulaski, just stay home for the rest of the evening unless you've just got real quick errand you need to run now. By 10 o'clock overnight tonight, they freeze up, again, patchy black ice. And there's also a possibility, some of these, if you just get a puddle or a patch of black ice, there's a process, it's a physical process called sublimation. And that's where the dry air and the wind will actually change the ice to where it doesn't go to a liquid stage, it goes straight to a gas. And you may have learned that in science and wondered, when am I ever going to learn that, use that term? Well, that's when you do, is when it's still ice, but it's still melting, so to speak, but it turns into that water vapor. So again, overnight, tomorrow morning, the roads will be extremely cold. And here's where we transition to the warmer roads. And this will be around 11 o'clock tomorrow. We do expect the road temperatures area-wide to be well into the 40s. And then, of course, they'll drop back after sunset tomorrow. But most of the roads are going to dry. But as you mentioned, Jayda, there's those areas, those hills, the trees that cover up areas, and it keeps them from drying up. So overall, I think this will be temporary tomorrow morning, but for some of you, it'll be a big inconvenience. That's why the schools are letting. It's twofold here. What's the other thing? Weather Service has got cold weather advisory out too.
Right. So there's extreme cold for our Tennessee communities. And then here at home, what we're dealing with, we've got flash flood, but also the concern that some of our Western communities still dealing with some of those freeze advisories. So not too sure how that's going to shape up outside of our roadways for sure. That's what we're really looking at. But as we go into these next couple of hours, we're trying to figure out how that's all going to play. So, of course, as you see here, road temperatures quite different as we go into those overnight hours, still dealing with a lot of areas going below freezing, but we're really hoping on that improvement happening for Monday. What you will notice, though, is as we go through the earlier hours of the day, we start to get some of that sunlight outside. That's going to do some great work for the forecast as we go into those afternoon hours as far as our roads go as well. Looks like they may clear up earlier in the day as we saw here with these road temperatures. But again, there's a lot of hazards and once again, not really a one size fits all to this process here. You can see our current temps already kind of low in the Western communities. A lot of these folks are starting to see the 20s already. And with some of that breeze hanging around in the forecast as well, what we're expecting to see is some of our temperatures getting to those feel-like temperatures of the teens. And that's another concern, especially getting out the door for Monday. Some of these forecasted temperatures being in those low teens, the wind speeds picking up, could drop us to feel like temperatures in the single digits. And I think that's another cause for concern for us as we look into the forecast for the next few days.
Oh, definitely. And again, we're already now just dropped again to 26, 24 now in Muscle Shoals. So we're really going to start to see the bridges and overpasses freeze up from Athens to Moulton here in the next 35 minutes or so. So as we mentioned earlier, just stay off of the roads tonight. Still 39 in Scottsboro. The driving conditions are pretty hazardous over there, just with the poor visibility right now. One good thing is we didn't get the freezing rain in Fort Payne.
That's good.
That's always a concern when you get that, and that's always that outlying potential surprise there is for the freezing rain. Got us full? Yeah, all right. So we're going to talk about coming up at 4. Actually, 5. I forgot it's Sunday. I'm used to the 4, the 5, and the 6. But coming up at 5 o'clock, I'll talk more about hour by hour, look at your weather, when we're finally going to dry out these roads. And as you saw there, it's probably going to be somewhere around 11 o'clock tomorrow that they begin to really thaw out. Sunshine's going to help. And then, as we always see with these winter weather events, it's day by day, it's a different change, and it's always a little different. I think that just like the last year, it took forever for them to get the roads back there in the western parts of Colbert County and Lauderdale County out in northwest Alabama. And I think the same thing could be said up there in Pulaski, near Ardmore, and over to Lawrenceburg as well.
Absolutely.
So we'll be talking more about that coming up at 5. And then after 5, we'll have another brief little talk back here.
Yeah.
And then coming up at 9:30, we'll have our 48 Weather Extra. Appreciate you. Anything you guys can send in to us to help us provide more coverage for not only you, but your area and the viewers that are around your location, that'll help us get that message out as well. Again, be safe out there tonight. Try to stay warm. It's going to get cold.